In Oregon, the state is looking at extending the eviction moratorium again. And in Texas, the state has passed a new law that's making it harder on tenants during eviction process. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have two interesting articles for you today, and one of them is coming out of Oregon, known to be a very tenant-friendly, very anti-landlord place. And the other one, it's coming out of Texas, known to be a very landlord-friendly place. And they're basically going over opposite ends of the spectrum, okay? So in Oregon, what they're trying to do right now is they're looking at extending their state eviction moratorium again because they just haven't been able to get enough rental assistance out to these tenants. Not realizing that, hey, at this point in time, the tenants have had plenty of time to apply. They've had enough chances. It's time to let the landlords get back to business. But they're not looking at it the same way we are, okay? And in Texas, there's a new state law that was passed. It's actually making it harder on tenants during the eviction process. So, yeah, it's really kind of crazy when you look at how different you can really, be going from one state to another. But before I get into these two articles, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Do you think it's weird how every state has their own separate eviction laws? I'm glad that they do, but it blows my mind just how different it is when you go from a place like Texas up to Oregon, or if you go from a place like where I live in Nebraska over to New York, and just how different the laws, rules, and regulations can be. It can really make or break your business depending on just what location you're doing it in, okay? So, the first article I have today, it's coming from coin.com, and it says, "Might Oregon extend eviction moratorium again?" Yeah, you know that I think they're going to extend it again, okay? We're talking about a very progressive place, and we're talking about, the fact that winter's about to start here. So let's see what the article says. As the state of Oregon struggles to get rental assistance out the door, housing providers are demanding answers and more accountability. Officials from the Oregon Housing and Community Services previously thought they could get through the backlog by the end of the year, but it is now the middle of November, and numbers show less than half of completed applications have received rental assistance so far. Multifamily Northwest Executive Director Deborah Imsey said, "Housing providers and tenants have done their part. Now it's time for the state to do theirs." Yeah, and I agree, okay? We're talking about the same issues that are going on all over the country, where the rental assistance is very much caught up in bureaucracy, okay? So it's not getting to the landlords who need it. So the landlords, they're just stuck with these tenants in their properties who aren't paying, and then they have to wait months on end, maybe indefinitely, until either the eviction moratorium ends or until the state finally gets off its butt and gets the money distributed to them. So yeah, it's a bad deal, and it makes the state look incompetent, in my opinion, okay, when they're the ones who put the eviction moratoriums in place, yet they can't distribute the rental assistance that they promised. Imsey testified at the Senate Interim Committee on Housing and Development meeting this afternoon. She said the state needs to start communicating with tenants and landlords about how much longer they could be waiting and make administrative changes immediately so we aren't in this same position months from now. That's the reason that we are so emphatic and that administrative issues need to be corrected, because if they're not corrected and corrected immediately, we'll be having the same conversation when we start short session in February, Imsey said. Yeah, by February, we're talking about 3 more months at that point, okay? Come on. If they haven't gotten this issue fixed in another 3 months, why don't they just allow these tenants to be evicted, okay? Why don't they just allow these landlords to put these tenants in the eviction process? Why do they make them wait indefinitely to get these funds, and they just can't distribute it? They can't get their act together. But the truth of the matter is they're doing it because they don't care about landlords. They're trying to get the most votes possible, and tenants outnumber landlords. It's pretty simple. Imsey also said she was shocked to hear the state is pausing accepting new applications December 1st and worries that could lead to evictions of people who need help. The committee was expected to discuss extending the eviction moratorium again Wednesday, but others said that still doesn't solve the problem of getting these funds out faster. OHCS said they are reprocessing older applications first as a way to help prevent evictions and are continuing to add more staff. Wow, total incompetence. Okay, so the reason that they are even discussing extending the eviction moratorium is because they can't get the rental assistance out fast enough. But here's the problem. If they extend that eviction moratorium again, then they will start, oh, well, we don't have to rush on these rental assistance applications anymore because there's no worry about these people getting evicted. That's what happened before. That's why the eviction moratorium was such a bad idea in the first place. And it just blows my mind thinking that, these people still don't have their act together. We're going on 2 years of this mess. I mean, right now we're over 18 months. So come on, let the landlords run their businesses the way they see fit, period. Oh man, and it just, these places like Oregon, these very progressive, anti-landlord places, they just they irritate me. And so that's why I'm going to get into this second article, and it's going to be going over something that's happening in Texas, and it's actually kind of a completely opposite situation of the one that's going on in Oregon. So this article, it comes from SpectrumLocalNews.com, and it says, thrown to the streets. Advocates say new state law is making evictions harder for tenants with nowhere to go. Let's see what this one says. Eviction filings are on the rise in most major cities in Texas since the moratorium ended. Rent relief is also running out, putting even more renters at risk. Now, new legislation could be adding to that stress. HB 900 became law in the last special session. It eliminates the liability for landlords during a writ of possession, which legally allows the forceful removal of a tenant and their property out of a rental unit if they have failed to leave by the court-ordered eviction date. Tenant rights advocates say this is letting landlords get away with reckless behavior. Those in favor of the law say landlords shouldn't be responsible for what happens during a lawful process. Yeah, so landlords, according to this, the new state law says that it eliminates the liability for landlords during a writ of possession, okay? So when the landlord is taking back their possession of the property, then they don't face any liability, okay? So they're going through the legal process already. There's no reason for them to be facing any sort of liability, okay? A lot of the times they've got the sheriff with them, okay? So the fact that a tenant would be able to sue them that was kind of ridiculous. So, this sounds like it was a good law put in place in Texas, a common sense law. And of course, the tenant right advocates don't like it because, hey, it might actually benefit the landlord and take away another possible lawsuit that they could file against, the hard-working landlords up here. On the other hand, there are tenants like Shanna Alexander who say the process isn't fair to begin with. Yeah, well, you know what? I'm not even going to read that part because I don't really care if a tenant thinks the eviction process is fair, okay? It is a legal process. The landlord's going through it, and, they can fight it in court or they can just leave, But let me continue. Let me skip it down to another paragraph. Rollins says HB 9000 will make the process even worse. She says sometimes they hear from tenants who have been mistakenly or wrongfully thrown out through a writ of possession. I think it lets landlords off the hook so they have no reason to take any particular care when putting out the property, she said. Yeah, well, I disagree, okay? So, I don't know the laws and rules in the state of Texas when it comes to taking your property back after eviction, but I do know that a lot of states, they require you to actually put people's stuff in storage. You just can't just straight throw it out. Some states allow you to just put it out on the curb, and if the people don't come pick it up, that's on them. But I don't think any landlord is intentionally trying to just steal somebody's property or destroy somebody's property to try to get revenge. No, all they're doing is following the law, and they don't deserve to be facing any sort of liability issues because you didn't want to remove your own property from their house, okay, or from their unit. So yeah, it sounds like a good law overall, but what it goes to show you in these two separate articles is that, the landlord laws in some places and the landlord laws in other places are worlds apart, okay? And the way that they treat landlords in a place like Oregon, it's awful, and that's part of the reason why I just wouldn't want to invest there. So I'm gonna stay here in the Midwest investing for now, and I recommend that if you are in one of these places with very tenant friendly laws, you just be very, very careful with what you're doing, and maybe even consider investing out of state, okay? Because that's the only way that you're going to be more sure that you're going to have success, and not have to face these headaches.